Hi, and welcome to part two of Engineering Management lecture for week 4. In this part, I want to talk as we organize our and structure our company, the part that human resource management plays in that. And I get a lot of questions about human resource management, and typically my experience has been what I hear from people who have been in the workforce when they tell me what they think their HR people do or what their relationship is with them or their experience with them is very, very different than what I envision for human resource management. I should probably mention that I spent a number of years in human resource management, and I actually hold a senior certification in that from SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management. And I actually teach HR here at Oregon Tech and sometimes at other schools. So I promise I'll keep this brief in that normally I would take a whole term to go through this, but we want to relate it to what we're talking about here, and that is helping you create an organization or your team or department, whatever your unit is, that is both effective and efficient and that improves performance inside that organization. So when I ask people what is their view of what HR management is, they will tell you it's where you go when you're in trouble. It's kind of like going to the principal's office, or if there's a legal problem, or when you're hired or you need to fill out forms or change your insurance forms. And that basically they take care of the technical legal part of working at an organization, which I would say is, in my view, that is very, very limited view of HR. And if that's what your company has, they're really missing an opportunity to create what we call a high performance work system, which is a concept and idea that starts in your human resource management area. And this is a high performance organization that achieves amazing results over time, and it's because it's an adaptive type of organization. They can react quickly, they can plan, they can innovate. And how do they do this? They do it through their management structure. And again, we're talking about organizing here, so this is a perfect time to talk about this, by continuous improvement and truly treating employees as their main asset. When you ask employers often how they view their employees, they will tell you they're the most important part of their company. But then when you look at inside the organization and how people are treated and how employees feel about being there, it is often not the case. But in a true high performance work case, employees are valued. They are given the tools and learning that they need in order to do their job and to make judgment calls. So they're empowered. And a lot of that, the authority to make decisions in their unique area is empowered to them, so that from whomever it rests with above them, so that they can actually make a difference right there on the spot and make calls based on their expertise. And when that is happening, what you also find is that this type of organic organization, ideas about improving performance and quality improvement spread from the bottom up. So it becomes a bottom-up organization instead of a top-down organization. And another aspect that we often see of high-performance work systems is that they're what we call learning organizations. So there is a high degree of continual learning and sharing of ideas. In the 1900s, when corporations really took off and that type of corporate world became pronounced, people felt that they had power and knowledge, right? So if they knew something, they wouldn't always share it because that gave them power over others. Well, now in our world of technology and sharing and easy to get information, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It also slows down processes. So in a high performance work system, you are learning constantly, and that's encouraged. And failure is not seen as something that needs to be punished. It's seen as something to be learned from. So a lot of worker involvement and participation. As I mentioned, technology is really important. And typically you will find a culture of high motivation among employees, which sounds wonderful, right? So here is your typical human resource management picture of what happens in a traditional HR department, and these things still go on. We need to hire the right people. We need to get the right people in the right seats on the right bus going in the right direction. But once they're there, we need to acculturate them into the organization's culture and what makes it special, and get them on board with the mission and the goals, etc. And then continually train and make sure that they're rewarded for what they do and that they're learning, and as they improve, the organization improves. So it's much bigger than that. As a former business owner and HR person, manager, teacher, whatever, over all the years of my experience, I will tell you, if you do nothing else as a manager, hire well. And why do I say that? If you find somebody and you bring them in who has what I like to call the right stuff, I always hired based on talent, skills, and if they're, the things that are important to them matched our key values in our organization, that's a worthy person. So in other words, if they have the same work ethic, if they were other-centered, because I was in healthcare in my last position, and so we wanted people who were other-centered, who were good team members, etc. And we looked for people with what I called the right stuff. Obviously, they need a certain level of technical expertise, but beyond that, we can teach them. We can teach them to use the software that we're using. We can teach them how to answer the phone the way we want to answer it. But if they come in with the basic skills, but they also have the attitudes and the values that we're looking for, and they're a great organizational fit, and win-win. Then you're going to have people who are excited to be there, who are going to be part of your team. You're going to have much fewer disciplinary problems. So you're not going to spend all your time trying to fix problems because you've hired well. So that's my advice to you. In your work this week, I've asked you to go online and to search for a job that you might be interested in. Here's some idea. The second bullet point here is a really great website, and it gives you all kinds of information. It will also tell you moment by moment who's hiring and what part of the country, what they're looking for. It's very detailed. It's pretty cool. So I just did, as an example, I took a computer programmer. I actually narrowed it down to more of a junior computer programmer, and went in, and it was amazing. So you'll see that in Canvas as part of what you're going to work on. So you don't have to go to that website, but for those of you who are looking for jobs soon, that's a great place to go. And as I mentioned, employee training is super, super, super important, and it should be ongoing. And instead of looking at it as time consuming and expensive, you look at it as an investment in your company. And there are a lot of different ways to do this. We are moving more away from passive methods to active methods, just like active learning, where you're actually doing. And if it's something that because of safety, maybe in healthcare, that you can't do first, maybe you're doing a simulation. Think about airline pilots. And so a lot of really good new techniques out there. And your textbook touches on a performance appraisal, and I have to say, I really, really, really agree with them. It should be an ongoing process. This should not be a once-a-year thing. You know, again, if we're saying that our employees are our most important asset, but we only sit down and talk to them once a year, and most of the time, what we tell them is based on the last 2 or 3 weeks, because we haven't written anything down, kept any records, or paid any attention that we remember. And oftentimes it becomes punitive. We want to point out everything they did wrong so that they can correct it. It's just a backwards way to look at this. So it should be an ongoing process. And I always met frequently. A lot of times it's a casual encounter. It's a you know, a few minutes over a cup of coffee or a soda, or, you know, walking from one part of the building to the other and taking time to ask people how it's going, and get out of your office and out on the floor. So anyway, very, very, very important. And I agree with what's in your textbook, so I'm not going to belabor it. We're also finding that our workplaces are changing. There's a lot of workforce diversity, and we've become a very mobile society, both nationally and globally. And with technology, we often work with people from all over the world, and that brings some really exciting possibilities, but it also brings more tension and other issues that we have to make sure that we pay attention to. So we love the idea of bringing in new perspectives and ways of looking at things, because that will make our idea pool richer and more robust. At the same time, if you bring in different cultures and ways of doing things together, this requires an added layer of respect and communication and paying attention to each other and how we can work together better. So it is really very, very important, and it can be a very positive thing. And this leads to, I mentioned communication, open communication and continuous communication. And as I mentioned, I used performance appraisal as an ongoing thing. And so when I hired somebody, I did the onboarding with them, the introducing them into the company. I usually set them up with another employee, so you had sort of a buddy system who also helped them understand what was expected of them, and where the lunchroom was, and how we did our breaks and things like that. So they got the official part from me, but they also got the day-to-day. And then I sat down with people at the end of their first week, just for a few minutes. How's it going? What was great? What concerned you, or what made, just find out where they are. And then again, in a couple more weeks, same thing, maybe just pull them aside for a few minutes, but always have that open door. I did my first review in 30 days. I also did another formal one in 6 months. We just kept at it, so that you're always setting goals for them to achieve, and they are setting those goals with you. So if your company requires a formal annual review, it should just be a recap of everything you've been doing all along, and there should be no surprises.